The story begins in the icy wilderness of remote Alaska. Snow falls gently over a small, lonely cabin, where a man named Winston is quietly heating a bowl of chicken noodles on a stove. He seems calm, but beneath the surface, there's tension in the air. Suddenly, the peaceful moment shatters. Two police officers burst through the door, weapons drawn. Behind them enters a determined U.S. Marshal named Madeline Harris. She tells Winston that they've been keeping tabs on him for a long time. He's not just some accountant. He used to be the financial fixer for one of the most dangerous crime families in America, the Moretti Mafia. Winston's specialty was laundering the Moretti's dirty money, turning illegal profits into clean cash. But today, his luck has run out. The FBI has enough to arrest him. Winston realizes that if he doesn't play his cards right, he'll spend the rest of his life behind bars. Thinking quickly, Winston makes them an offer. He'll become a government witness, take the stand, and testify against the Moretti family in court, something no one has ever done before. In exchange, he wants his sentence erased. It's a golden opportunity for the FBI. The Morettis have never been brought down because no one has ever dared to turn against them with solid evidence. After a call with her superior, Caroline, Madeline is assigned the responsibility of transporting Winston safely to New York for the trial, via a private flight scheduled for the very next day. The flight begins. The following morning, Winston arrives at a small airstrip under heavy guard. He's handcuffed and constantly glancing over his shoulder, aware that the Morettis won't let him reach New York alive. Madeline reminds him that she's in charge of his security, and if the Mafia makes a move, they'll be ready. A few minutes later, their pilot arrives, a man introducing himself as Darrell Booth. He'll be flying them from Alaska to New York, over mountains, forests, and vast stretches of frozen wilderness. The plane takes off smoothly, climbing over the rugged Alaskan peaks. Madeline engages in small talk with the pilot, but something catches her eye. There's a fresh cut behind his ear. Darrell casually says it happened while doing maintenance earlier in the morning. Winston, seated in the back, studies the pilot closely. There's something off about him. The man seems overly curious about Winston's background, and when he realizes Winston is a key witness under FBI protection, his demeanor shifts. Something feels wrong. Soon, Madeline notices another odd detail. This private plane doesn't seem to have an active GPS. The pilot claims he's flying at a lower altitude to save time, but it feels suspicious. Then out of nowhere, a bird slams into the windshield. While the pilot steadies the aircraft, a jolt sends some papers sliding to the floor near Winston's seat. Winston picks them up and freezes. The pilot's license photo on the papers doesn't match the man flying the plane. This isn't Darrell Booth. This man is an imposter. Winston realizes the truth. The Morettis have sent a hitman in disguise to make sure he never reaches the courtroom. A dangerous reveal. Not wanting to alert the hitman directly, Winston pretends to feel sick. He tells Madeline to come to the back and help him. When she moves closer, she notices blood on the pilot's hand and remembers the strange behavior since takeoff. It all clicks. This man is not the real pilot. But before she can act, the hitman lunges. A violent struggle breaks out in the cramped cockpit. Madeline's service pistol clatters to the floor, and the hitman manages to overpower her, knocking her out cold. When she wakes up, she's tied up in her seat. The hitman calmly explains that he's been paid a huge sum to kill Winston before he can testify. His plan is simple: fly the plane to a remote forest, kill the witness, and disappear. Winston tries to bargain, offering the same amount of money the Mafia promised, maybe even more. The hitman laughs. Money isn't the point. He enjoys the hunt, and killing Winston is personal business now. Madeline strikes back. The hitman doesn't notice that Madeline is regaining strength. She grabs a stun device and shocks him, giving Winston a moment to breathe. But the fight isn't over. The hitman attacks again, forcing Madeline into the plane's control panel. In the chaos, the plane begins to dive. Winston yells instructions, guiding her on how to pull the aircraft out of its deadly descent. At the last second, she regains control and steadies the plane, switching to autopilot. Madeline frees herself and partially unties Winston, keeping one hand cuffed for safety. Searching the hitman's pockets, she finds something chilling: a photograph of Winston's mother. The Mafia has made it clear, if Winston survives, his mother will die. Contacting help. Madeline tries to contact her superior, Caroline, but can't get through. She calls an airline operations officer instead, explaining that she's in a life-or-death situation and that the hitman disabled the GPS. Before she can get full assistance, the connection drops. Winston reminds her that she has a satellite phone. Using it, she finally reaches Caroline, who connects her to a trusted pilot friend. The friend begins guiding Madeline toward the nearest safe landing location. Caroline also assures her that she'll send agents to protect Winston's mother immediately. The traitor in the ranks. Madeline interrogates the hitman, asking how he knew they'd be on this specific flight. Only a handful of FBI insiders knew about the mission, which means there's a mole inside the agency. The hitman taunts her, suggesting she release him if she wants to land safely. But Madeline continues taking instructions from the pilot on the phone, adjusting their course toward New York. The hitman tries another angle, telling Winston that the Morettis already have his mother's address. Winston is shocked because only the FBI knew that information. Madeline suspects her superior, Caroline, but she's wrong. When she presses Winston for details, he reveals that whenever the Mafia sent money to their inside contact, it was to a specific location. Cross-referencing the address, Madeline realizes the real traitor isn't Caroline, it's their deputy director. She quickly calls Caroline, explaining the mistake and warning her to be careful. The deputy will come after her to cover his tracks. Closing in on New York. As they approach their new heading, Madeline spots a capsized ship below. She relays the coordinates to the pilot guiding her, who confirms they're about 30 minutes from the New York runway. Winston finally allows himself a smile. Maybe, just maybe, they'll make it. But then the hitman, who has secretly freed himself, strikes. He stabs Winston twice and tries to strangle Madeline with a seat belt. Winston, bleeding heavily, musters the strength to pull the knife from his own body and cut the belt, freeing Madeline. She grabs a flare gun and fires it at the hitman, disorienting him long enough to knock him unconscious again. But Winston's condition is deteriorating fast. Madeline makes a risky decision: burn extra fuel to increase their speed, hoping to reach the runway before he bleeds out. It means they'll have almost no fuel left for landing, but there's no choice. Winston is bleeding badly, his breath shallow. Madeline's eyes dart between him and the altimeter. Time is slipping away fast. The engines groan, running dangerously low on fuel. In her headset, the guiding pilot warns, "You've got one shot at this landing. Miss it, and you won't have enough fuel to circle back." The mole strikes from the ground. Madeline's sat phone buzzes. Caroline's voice is urgent, almost panicked. She's discovered the truth. The deputy director of the FBI is the mole who's been feeding information to the Moretti family. He's orchestrating everything, and now he's moving to control the landing zone. Caroline warns her, "Trust only the agents wearing green clearance tags. Anyone else, shoot if you have to." Then the line goes dead. The hitman's final attack. Madeline's focus snaps back to the cockpit. She hears movement. The hitman is awake again. Bloodied but relentless, he lunges forward, grabbing the yoke and forcing the plane into a sharp dive. The cockpit erupts into chaos. Madeline smashes her elbow into his face, but in the cramped space, every move risks disaster. Winston, pale and barely conscious, musters the last of his strength to throw his weight into the hitman, knocking the knife from his hand. The struggle rages until Madeline forces the cabin door open mid-flight. A roar of freezing wind fills the space. The hitman clings to the frame, but she shoves him hard. He's ripped away into the endless clouds below. The desperate landing. The fight has damaged the controls, and the plane is dropping fast. Madeline steadies her hands, following the guiding pilot's voice in her ear. "Flare at 500 feet. Don't overcorrect. Keep your speed steady." The runway appears through the mist, lights rushing toward them. She deploys the landing gear. There's no turning back now. With a bone-jarring thud, the plane hits the tarmac, skids violently, and comes to a halt just as the engines sputter out completely. The trap on the runway. Black SUVs rush toward the plane. But one glance is enough. None of the agents have the green tags Caroline mentioned. It's an ambush. Madeline grabs Winston, half carrying him out the opposite side of the aircraft. Bullets shatter the fuselage as she sprints toward a hangar, where a smaller, armed group waves her over. Gunfire echoes as the two sides exchange shots, but Madeline and Winston make it into the hangar alive. Justice in motion. Inside, medics work frantically on Winston. Caroline arrives moments later, battered but alive. She tells Madeline the deputy director has been taken into custody. Winston's mother is safe under FBI protection. Weeks later, Winston testifies in court, delivering damning evidence that dismantles the Moretti crime empire. Guilty verdicts follow. The Mafia's reign is over. A quiet farewell. Under witness protection, Winston is given a new life. In a quiet moment before he's relocated, he thanks Madeline. She asks, "If you could do it over again, would you still take the deal?" He smirks faintly. "Some flights you just shouldn't take." They part ways, disappearing into different paths, bound forever by the flight that almost ended them both.